Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and very good morning to Yang Berbahagia, Professor Technology Azremi Abdul Al-Hadi, the Dean of Faculty of Intelligent Computing, distinguished guests. Today we are very honored to have Ms. Christina Chase from MIT, and we also have Professor Dr. Zulkifli Muhammad, Technology Nurul Shuhada Husaini from UiTM Shah Alam, faculty members, fellow lecturers, and dear students. So welcome to the first Fkc International Talk 2025. Right, thank you. Okay, today's sessions, Engineering Entrepreneurship, Transforming Idea into Impact, will show us how great ideas can spark innovations that shape the futures. So this program is proudly organized by the Faculty of Intelligence Computing, FKC, Seminar Committee, in collaborations with the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and International, the Malaysian Sport Technology Associations, MyStar, the Institute Sukan Negara, ISN, and the Sports Engineering Research Center, SERC, UNIMAP. So without further ado, to officially open our event and share his words of encouragement, I am pleased to invite Professor Technologies Dr. Azremi Abdul Al-Hadi, the Dean of the Faculty of Intelligent Computing, to deliver his opening remark. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning, everyone. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome all of you to this Fkc International Talk Series 1, and especially to extend our warmest greeting to our distinguished speaker, Ms. Christina Chase, the co-founder and managing director of the MIT Sport Lab. Thank you, Christina, for all the way coming to Perlis, Malaysia. UNIMAP is the 17th public university in Malaysia, and one of the 4 technical universities under the Malaysian Technical University Network, MTUN. Our niche is electric and electronics, supporting industries in the northern semiconductor region. We currently have about 13,000 students, including 5% international students, and also 10% of postgraduate students as well. Small but dynamic and growing rapidly in global collaboration. The Faculty of Intelligent Computing, or FKC, abbreviated in Malay, FKC, is one of the UNIMAP newest faculties, officially established in July 2025. We bring together expertise in computing, computer engineering, and mathematics, offering programs in computer engineering, data science, and other related postgraduate studies. Our mission is to develop innovators who combine intelligence, engineering, and also data to solve real-world problems. Today's talk perfectly captures that spirit, where technology meets innovation and human aspiration. We are truly excited with this talk, which we believe can inspire our own students and also researchers here at UNIMAP. Once again, thank you, Christina, and other collaborators, MyStar, ISN, SERC, and the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor for this, to support this initiative. Welcome again, and let's us enjoy everyone for this talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Technologies Dr. Azremi, for the opening speech. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the highlight of our program. Allow me to briefly introduce our distinguished speaker. Christina Chase is a lecturer at the MIT in both departments of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, and also at the Departments of Mechanical Engineering. She co-founded the MIT Sport Lab in 2015, where she bridged academia and industry to drive innovations in sport technology. Beyond MIT, Christina has mentored hundreds of teams from concept to company, founded startups across industry, including education, technology, and healthcare IT, and has held leadership roles in cutting-edge technology companies. She also served as the first entrepreneur in residence at MIT's Martin Trust Center for entrepreneurships. Her journey from being an elite cyclist with US Olympic Training Center to becoming an international leader in innovations and entrepreneurships is nothing short but inspiring. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ms. Christina Chase to deliver her talk entitled Engineering Entrepreneurship, Transforming Idea into Impact. Please welcome.
Thank you all. It's a true honor to be here with you. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed my time here, and UNIMAP aligns exactly with what we do. We like to think we're small but a powerhouse, and using the real-world problems to guide where we look to solve those big, high-impact opportunities. So today, what I thought I could do is speak a little bit about how we think about entrepreneurship and some of the core aspects of what we think have helped us move from the lab to the market. I'll give you a little bit of background about myself, just for context, and then a little bit about MIT as well. So, this is where I grew up. Any guesses? Colorado. Someone has the cheat sheet. I love everything about that. That's right, this is Colorado, the Rocky Mountains. This was my backyard. What did that mean? Meant I did this. Go outside and play. That was what my parents encouraged. So that meant everything from hiking and skiing, believe it or not, scuba diving. Colorado is a landlocked state, but we have the highest number of scuba divers, actually, in the United States. Canoeing, kayaking, and it was actually fly fishing, which you kind of see in this lower aspect, where my inspiration for my first company came. So I was fly fishing on a glacial stream. There was no industry up above. There were cabins, and yet I was seeing kind of pooling surfactants in different parts of the stream, and I didn't understand what's going on. My curiosity bit me, and so I had to go figure it out. So after a little bit of research, what I found was it was actually what those up above who were in the cabins, who had cistern systems, were putting on skin, and we were finding actually this was a bigger problem. So the soaps, the lotions, it was all going down the drain and coming ultimately back into the streams and the water. And so I thought, let's look to see if we can solve that problem, because if it's here in the Rocky Mountains, it's bound to be other areas, especially with much higher populations. So I thought, well, for years, there's been history of using organics as makeup and as lotions and these other things. So why not try and do that again? Because at the time, there were environmentally friendly products or things that worked. They were not the same product, though. And so people were making that choice. I'm either going to be environmentally friendly, or I'm going to use a makeup or a shampoo that actually works and does what I need it to do. So that is where the inspiration, the first startup came from. I had no idea what I was doing. I was a saver. I pushed all my savings in. I convinced my parents that they should co-sign a loan. I actually had to go to the bank president with my father and explain why I should have a couple of $1,000s to try this. Despite the fact that I was first generation college on an academic scholarship and the oldest, I dropped out my first semester of college to try and do this. Now, if you knew how I was raised, being first generation college, what I heard throughout my life was, if I get you through college, our job as parents is just to get you through college, and then we've done our job. I tell my parents this, I will never forget, my mom asked me, are you in a cult? Like, what is going on with you? You're the straight A student, all of the advanced placement classes, and you're doing what? I saw a problem that I just thought, well, why not me? Well, I can tell you a number of reasons why. But I tried for 9 months. I pushed all my savings, everything in. And let me tell you, first, living is expensive. Because my parents said, oh, if you think you're an adult, great. That means that we're no longer covering any of your anything, right? So we would cover you if you're in college for housing, and we'll cover your food if you're in college, and we'll cover your insurance and your car and toiletries. But if you're an adult, then, well, we've turned your room into a sewing room. You're allowed here for 2 weeks for holidays. We love you immensely. But you're an adult, evidently, so off you go. One of the things I learned is life is expensive. I had not planned for that in my budget. What did that mean? I went into a local CVS where we might buy toiletries, and I looked at shampoo, and I thought, dang, shampoo's expensive. It's like $8. I had no idea what I was doing, clearly. I didn't know I was being an entrepreneur. Startups weren't a thing at the time, but I just saw a problem I wanted to solve. So that's really where the entrepreneurial journey for me started. In 9 months, I tanked the company. What had I not done? First, I had no idea that locking your money into things that you can't sell is really hard. I had like 100 bottles and 1,000 bottle caps. A lot of dependencies there. Other thing was I recruited a lot of people who were like me. What did that mean? I had no organic chemists because I was 18. I was not there yet, right? I had nobody who understood biochemistry. I had nobody understanding any of the real expertise of what it took to stabilize these types of things in extreme cold or extreme heat or at scale. So after 9 months, I went back to school, much to my parents' happiness. During that time, I started racing bikes. And part of this, believe it or not, was actually because I was running so much from the stress of starting my first company and being loaded into a 2-bedroom apartment with 5 people that I was always outside trying to release. And I was at the point where I was practically limping. And my mom said, okay, over Christmas, you're still gonna have to go back to the other place. You need to find a different sport, lady. And what did that mean? I had a friend who was a sponsored Ironman triathlete, and she tried my bike. Tried the bike, loved it. So when I moved back to school, I worked to just pay for my first bicycle. And I was lucky enough that she had friends that could give me a little bit of a discount and hook me up with the right clothing and the right bicycle as cheaply as possible. And there were these oval rides. And so I would go to these oval rides. There would be about 50 or 60 men and 2 women, my friend and me. I thought I was really, really, really bad. Because this is where they were riding. I would get dropped just in the warm-up and then spend the next 4 hours by myself on the plains. What I didn't realize was a lot of these cyclists at the time were semi-pro. They had just come back from Europe, racing in Europe, and I just thought I was bad. So when I went into race season, I was pretty good. I started winning everything. And who knew? After a couple of years, I had won a number of championships, and the U.S. Cycling Federation and the U.S. Olympic Committee reached out and selected 12 of us nationwide to train at the Olympic Training Center. And so that's how I accidentally stumbled into being on the women's espoir team for the future female cycling team. Thank you. All on purpose. But it was just determination and grit that I thought, okay, I just need to keep going. And I was lucky enough to be around some very good people. So this should have arrows, but that's okay. Imagine it goes left to right, left to right, left to right. So after that, as part of this, I was accepted into the White House, and not into their typical internship program. Somehow my application got filtered into a very small office called the Office of Science and Technology Policy, Technology Division. This is where about 6 or 7 presidential appointees in the field of technology advise the president on future policy and regulation around things like air and space. Partnerships for a new generation of vehicles, which were the first EV relationships, electric vehicle relationships, encryption, all of the shuttle launches. Here's a little side anecdote. I had a big general sitting next to me in his cubicle. We're all in, like, it's a tiny office. And I asked him, oh, are you going to be able to get to go on vacation with any of your family? He said, oh, yes, I've planned it for the shuttle launch. But, sir, you oversee the shuttle launch. He said, oh, yeah, the first one always gets rescheduled. It's the only time I can guarantee that I won't have an interrupted vacation. So it was little things like that. But here's the other fun fact. I was one of the only interns in there, or kind of, I don't know what they called us. It wasn't internship, but regardless, I was on point to man the fax machine. For those of you who remember what that is, right? It scans out these pictures. Explain it to the youngins, what that is later. It was to take the first pictures from JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab, from Mars for our first rover to the president on the 4th of July. So I have the first pictures from Mars that were ever captured by the United States, which is really fun. Then, what did I learn? Well, I learned that politics is slow, and I don't have patience. So I decided, they said, oh, you've already dropped out once. Why don't you stay? And I said, amazing opportunity, thank you so much. I think I'm going back to school. Then someone said, oh, you're very good at talking to people and solving problems. So I went to New York City with Hill Knowlton and did crisis communications. What did I learn there? I like building things rather than solving other people's problems that they get themselves into. I'd rather solve my own. And finally, it was Hewlett-Packard, where I was in the back end of data storage, tape data storage. Now, this is a time when data storage, I thought, meant files in filing cabinets in a warehouse, because I am a bit that generation. But it was actually working in this back end with the optical data storage folks that I was translating what the benefits of the new technologies were. And what I realized was that they were emailing really big design files to each other. And I thought, this seems not very efficient. And there was this thing called the internet that had been growing and growing. And so I proposed to my manager, what if I design a site, internal firewalls to HP, so you guys can share documents, have version control, and more easily be able to collaborate in one space rather than individually emailing these files back and forth. I went to them, they said, well, okay, we'll listen. That seems good. And so, and how do you do that? And I said, well, one moment, right? I came back the next week having spoken to my professor and said, okay, we're doing new curriculum around digital. That's what we were calling it, digital. Can I build what I think would be called an intranet for Hewlett-Packard and get credit for it? He said, well, we haven't done that before. Sure. I said, okay, great. So I trained myself to code and hard-coded the first intranet for Hewlett-Packard's data storage division. Thank you. It was not nearly as beautiful as what we see today, But let me tell you, I was very proud, and I got an A. From there, we were seeing a lot of consolidation, and I was asked to move in to help start the first OEM data storage division. And over 9 months, we were able to take a $6.4 million budget, which was not doing a very good job of actually driving sales, and turn that around to a $500 million in 9 months to actually serving our largest customers by me pitching one of the account managers for our largest customer's Sun Technologies to actually change how we did marketing and business development. And so that we were able to turn around very quickly, whereby before we were trying to do traditional techniques, which were more like I was trying to sell to United Airlines, yet that was not working, and we were losing money. Long and short, throughout that, what I was able to do was just step into a role that allowed me to work throughout the world with customers to better understand how to bring larger product offerings together. The reason I mention this is I heard that there are students here. None of these opportunities came to me. None of these opportunities were things that my manager or my boss even thought of. You guys all have this opportunity to have an impact. See a hole, fill a hole. See a problem, fix a problem. There's no reason why you can't. I then went to Dartmouth and helped start the first incubator and accelerator for Dartmouth. I worked with upwards of 20 different companies helping take them to commercialization. I was then recruited to LabSphere. LabSphere does photonic test and measurement. I've worked with just about every space agency because what we were able to do was we were one of the few in the world that could calibrate satellites in a vacuum. As part of that, I also got to work with the Malaysian Space Agency. You guys were great to work with. Thank you. In my time there, it was an opportunity, though, I figured out later, I say later, 8 weeks, that they were going to try and sell the company. Yes. So I was asked to sit on the executive board to be one of those to do so. I was the only female. I was the youngest by 15 years to the other youngest individual. And I was in manufacturing, heavy manufacturing. I was one of probably 5 in the entire company, and almost everybody else was either administrative, there was one HR woman, or there was one person in coatings. I said, okay, I looked at the business and I said, no one's looking over our materials and coatings. Why did our materials and coatings matter? It was a practically perfect Lambertian curve, meaning it diffusely scattered light almost perfectly, which helps immensely if you're trying to excite a laser. So we made laser pumping chambers for night vision goggles. It was the satellites, et cetera. And I convinced the president, if we are able to get more than 6 to 8% EBITDA, if I can get it more than that, I want to be able to take over this division, and I want a bonus. He didn't believe that I could do that. It was not thought that we were going to get more than about 6 EBITDA. We got to 11, I think it was, 11 or 12 in the sale, and blew off all of the current expectations for how much it would cost or how much the company would get. So I got to take over the materials and coatings division. That division had seen no growth for 15, 20 years. It had been years and years. No patents, no nothing new. In 9 months, I created 3 patents and sold all of them to 3 different manufacturers. Fuji Biomedical, computed radiography for Kodak, and then a new special type of coating for light vision goggles for Northrop Grumman. We saw 22% growth where we had been in single digits for decades. During that time, I was thinking about ideas with other friends, nights and weekends. One was in Denver, one was in Boston, I was in northern New Hampshire. During that time, one of those people had also started CaseNet, which was a healthcare IT company. He recruited me down to come in and grow the company. So over a couple of years where we had no growth, it was a crowded market, a new president came in, the company was sold, new president came in, and he said, wow, you guys are so good, you're so well known in the market. Why do we have marketing and business development? I said, well, that's what we've been doing. And he said, well, we don't need that. So I laid myself and my team off because of the work we had done over the last few years to become a market leader. Okay, that's what then led to my latest, which was my last commercial startup, Firehose, which was advanced concepts for science, technology, engineering, and math. It was before edX, which was where Stanford and MIT put millions of dollars into a platform to help educate the world, and that was really the goal of what Firehose was. During my time there, I had been helping mentor a number of MIT startups that got back to the executive director of the head of the Entrepreneurship Center, and they asked me to come in. I said, oh, I don't want to, sure, I'll come in, I'll help, but I don't really just want a jobby job. I really want to do some big stuff. And he said, well, what does that look like? And that is where we came up with the Entrepreneur in Residence title. It was never before a title that had been in a full-time capacity. And so for a number of years, that's what I did. Here are three things I did not see. I did not see hardware, I did not see women, and I did not see undergraduates in any of the work that we were doing. So those were my three pillars. When I left, we had more hardware than we had ever seen before. Easily 50% or 60% of our work was in some type of physical product or material. We were easily 50-50 men to women founders, and undergraduates were always part of these teams. So as that, I though said, man, I am ready to build my next thing, and that is where the MIT Sports Lab came from. I'll talk a little bit more about what we do there. But just to set a little context, and if you don't know, at MIT we like numbers. So I'm with my people, right? You guys like numbers? So let me give you a couple of numbers here. 5,817, 7,176. That is the number of undergraduates we have, and that is the number of graduates. So, as I said, we are small, but we like to think as well that we are a powerhouse in our own right. Okay, we start there. 101. This is the number of Nobel laureates. As you can guess, one must be humble at MIT because you run into them in the hallways and they're humble. So, too many Nobel laureates? I'll let them know. Be like, stop doing great work. Would you please? You're making us look bad. Yeah, I don't have one. But my colleagues, man, they're doing some great work. 879 million. That is our annual research budget. Now, what is interesting about this budget is this number. A lot of our funding comes from external engagements with industry. We are exceptionally applied-based. Now, yes, we do take federal funding, but as you can guess, this is a huge driver of what we're able to do. And this is exactly how the Sports Lab runs. We are completely externally funded. Zero money from MIT, zero federal grants, zero nonprofit granting. It is completely from industry in the field of sports, or those who are looking to serve sports. Now, a couple more numbers. 700, 100, 6,000, 30,000. Invention disclosures. Licenses of patents. Approximately number of papers that we publish every year, about 6,000, and 30,000, which is also an interesting number for this talk. 30,000 companies currently have alums that are part of their founding team. And these are active companies. Now, let me tell you, having done a number of startups, we have a lot of companies that have not survived. So these are active companies per the last research that has been done. So what do we do at the Sports Lab? And I'll come back to that 30,000 that number. But we are really looking to bring the intelligence, the brain, the creativity of the entire institute together with those on the cutting edge of sport. And thinking of how do we do that? Well, as we go through, a lot of the themes that we see around the world are around talent ID and development. Can I figure out who that next Messi is? Who's Lionel Messi, right? He was a kid before he was what he is known today as. And then how do I optimize that development pathway? So in-game strategy, can I reverse engineer the playbook of my opponent? This is a huge one, athlete health and development. Can I better understand how to mitigate risk of injury and then actually optimize the recovery pathway for those who are injured? And sustainability and access and inclusivity are two themes we're continuing to hear a lot of interest in. How do I think about using natural materials in the development of equipment and apparel? It's called the circular economy. How do we start to grow algae to use in some of the shoes that we're wearing? And then access and inclusivity. How do we not just grow elite sport, but how do we use sport as an opportunity for an active lifestyle? How do we bring folks in from disparate populations that allow from, someone was waving up there, disparate populations to ensure that they too have opportunity to engage and have those types of social connections and learn how best to how movement adds to one's life. So, as I mentioned, we do work around the world, and so these are just some of the organizations we work with. Now, since they're just logos, and I don't expect all of you to know every single logo, the upper left-hand corner is the Milwaukee Brewers. San Antonio Spurs are a very famous NBA basketball team. A third of the NBA front office and coaches come from this organization. They are that well respected. FIFA is one of our best partners. We've worked with them on the semi-automated goal line technology, semi-automated offsides, auto event detection. They're really looking at how do we democratize data at a more global scale. The NFL, FanDuel, let me actually just give you some real examples. The NFL came to us during COVID. Should we reopen our stadiums? Guess what? Yes, believe it or not. Why? Because football, a lot of the big football teams are in cold states. And when is it the NFL season? Winter. What was happening? Rather than going to outdoor stadiums or tailgating, as it's a party before the big game taking place outside, they were doing it in their homes without masks. And they were turning into their own spreading nodes. So it was much easier for the NFL to cordon off certain parts of an outdoor stadium and actually have an impact on the spread of COVID. A lot of interesting work. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a very famous American football player. He has been working around, his plyometrics has been a big part of his work and extension of his career. And so he said, I really want to look at, can we understand the science behind what we're seeing there? And officiating is very much a big one. But when we think of officiating, you see kind of the AI refereeing. It's not using AI to replace the referee. It's like, how do we build the tools that allow those referees who may not have as much experience navigating really a fast play to help them with some aided some assistance to be able to see when something might have been offsides, who had the last touch, because ultimately, when you're in the World Cup, you do not want to be eliminated because of a bad call. So these are just a few. But you can see, when we talk about what we do, people will say, what's your focus? Sports. Everything from material science to data science. We look to bring together interdisciplinary teams to tackle these challenges because, as you guys know, no real world problem has one discipline that is needed to actually be able to achieve a solid answer, right? It is many minds that get us to really interesting creative solutions, and we've seen this over and over again, and so this is how we think about our work. So that goes into what we think of as innovation. Okay. How many of you have used the word or heard the word innovation, and it has had a different meaning to everybody you've talked to? I could ask 10 different people, what does innovation mean to them, and I will almost guarantee I will get 10 different answers unless they are talking together. It's like consulting. What's consulting? I don't know. But this word is often used, and we don't always have a real clear definition as to what that means. And so let's just look at what the Old English Dictionary says. And just, of course, today's dictionary.com. But it is to change a thing or into something new, to alter, to renew. Okay. But invention is different. Invention is to come up, to find out, to discover. But when we look at it through the lens of MIT, we look at innovation really being that intersection of invention and commercialization, or practical application. Because if invention sits in the walls of MIT, would we call it innovation? Because no one's using it. Let me tell you, there are a ton. There are more patents that aren't used than are. Now, this is not to say foundational research is not core. That is core. That is our base. We do not think that rigorous, thorough research should not be done. The key is knowing where to apply that effort. And what are the real things that will add to the larger knowledge base for innovation to be done and for greater knowledge to be shared and then used to piggyback a better understanding of the world, space, etc. Now, an often question I often get is, well, okay, how long does that take? Let's just go through some examples. The zipper. I don't know how many of you use zippers. I like them a lot. First patent, 1851. Okay. We update the patent again in 1913. 1923, first used in boots. Rubber boots, to be specific. And then 1925, first clothing application. How long did the invention and innovation of the zipper take? Oh, it was just 12 years. Okay, really? The first patent was in 1851. It was more like 74 years. How many of you are being asked to do foundational research and turn it into a company? Right? I give you a grant, 2 years, fund it, and I want you to do the research, figure out what is core, what needs to be answered. I then want you to do that foundational research, and then I want you to take it into a commercial product within those 2 years, and that is all the funding we're going to give you. This is the zipper. Now, what we also have to remember is, was there any equipment to manufacture a zipper? Were there any supply chains set up? Were zippers something that we even knew how to make at scale? Because Because that's the thing. I can make one zipper. Maybe I make 5 zippers. Can I make 500,000 zippers that zip and unzip and zip and unzip, and I get wet, and I put mud on them, right? We have to remember, core here isn't just the invention. The commercialization also means I can produce at scale, right? And the problem with new invention is a lot of times we don't even have the equipment to make it, right? Let's look at another one. Velcro. Okay, one of my good friends, Bob, worked for Velcro for a number of years. They call it hook and loop. Velcro is the brand, hook and loop is the actual thing that Velcro is doing. So, okay, Bob, it's hook and loop. But let's look at Velcro. Inspired by Hiking with the Dog by George. Astronauts, first shoe, 20 years. Hook and loop. Hook and loop. Velcro. Let's look at another one. Okay, OLEDs. Again, we've been doing this for years. Notice 2007, Sony, first OLED display in low volume. Because there was questions like, how do you maintain quality with the OLEDs? They were burning out. So a lot of these low runs are allowing for companies to see, okay, where are our failure modes? But then, in 2014, they were able to understand what that looked like and have the equipment, have the testing protocols in place for quality. But still, it took 54 years. Now, foundational research is core, but these are examples of how long real, true technical innovation takes, which is a long time. And this is hard to understand, right? If you're defining innovation as incremental improvement, okay, fine. But the key here is incremental improvement is not breakthrough many times. So let's just look at what a 10-year innovation cycle looks like. In the past, we have had universities doing the foundational research, and then we would have corporate labs, Bell, Xerox, these corporate labs that would really take on a lot of the technical risk out of the universities and continue on that development process. The corporate labs would invest in continuing to figure out how do we get these to production. And you would see a huge chunk of R&D being put in by these labs coming out of universities to continue that development out. Now, what's going on today? Corporate labs are dying. They're going away, except maybe Google X. Who is taking this technical risk on? Who is taking the effort, taking stuff out of the labs? It's being replaced by startups. It's the startups that are saying, you know, why aren't we able to do this better? And I've been doing my graduate and my PhD research for years on this, and I know what I'm solving for, and I'm talking to those in industry, because, right, we have 800 industry engagement. So the constant state of our graduate students understanding what are they trying to solve for, and they're saying, okay, if the corporate labs aren't going to take it on, we're not at production, we're not at scale yet, but we see the opportunity there. So it's the startups that are taking that risk on. Now, how do we think of this in the context of MIT? Remember that 300 or that 30,000 number, which was of active companies? This is why we care about innovation and entrepreneurship at MIT. It means that nearly 4.6 million individuals are employed. It means approximately $1.9 trillion in revenue is being generated. And if you were to look at that in totality, it would approximately be the 10th largest economy in the world. This is international. This is people coming to MIT and innovating and starting companies in their own countries. This is in the United States. But this is a global number, and it is why we think of it as a core to having impact within the world. And here are just a few. Now, iRobot. You may not know iRobot, but you might know the Roomba. That's Roomba. I don't know if you have Bose headsets, but that is Dr. Bose. Airware drones, Formlabs, one of the first SLA 3D printers. By CVS to be their first robotic pharmacy arm. Just a few examples. Dropbox, Drew Houston. How do I collaborate and share files? This was before what we had for Google Docs and Google Drive. But remember how we said technical innovation takes a long time? Here's the other thing. Not every idea is the idea, right? This is research that was done in 1997 by G.A. Stevens and Burley. It takes approximately 3,000 raw ideas for one commercial success. Less than 1% of patent disclosures represent, quote, crown jewels with major commercial significance. Less than 1%. It goes through a number. How many of you have submitted ideas to something, for a grant, for something, right? How long did it take you to get to that submission? How many other things did you think about? It takes a lot to even get to submitting. Then, of course, we've all been denied, right? So then we get only to like approximately 125 projects that are coming out. Okay, if you're actually doing research, about 9 have significant development. Again, we're researchers, we get that. Even if you're applied, 4 major developments, 1.7 launches. Okay, a 0.7 launch, I don't know, like soft launch? But only 1 commercial success. So we have to remember that it takes a lot to get there. We had one poet laureate in the United States, and he said, every poet has 100 bad poems in them. Our jobs as poets is to get those out as fast as possible so we can get to the good ones. That is how we have to think about this in the commercial sense as well. So core to this is, let me just give you a couple of examples of what makes and promotes innovation at MIT. Now I know we're over, so I'm going to run through these a little fast. Mind in hand, mense manus. What does that mean? We're exceptionally applied. That means learn it and then do it. This is one example.
On really hot summer days, artificial turf temperatures can get up to 60 degrees Celsius, which is about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. The main problem was, can we redesign the midsole to have some kind of passive cooling mechanism that would mitigate this problem?
What did you learn about making heat transfer models?
Never done it before, so that was a learning experience. We started brainstorming on potential solutions for this problem. So we had about 5 ideas of what kind of mechanism we would use. And then for all those, we did heat transfer calculations. And then that's how we decided that the best method would be having some kind of phase-changing material that would absorb that heat and that energy that would otherwise go into the foot, and then also having no insulation into the shoe. I think actually making the testing setup was very spontaneous. We just got into the shop and we started cutting all the parts.
So the test setup is meant to
Undergrad,
visually
computer
recreate,
scientist.
an environment that is roughly the same as the hot turf that Adidas was investigating.
Notice he was
The
drilling
experiment
though.
has a heat pad, which maintains a steady temperature of about 59 degrees Celsius to replicate the turf.
We use microcontrollers and relays to control the temperature of the heat pad and of the heat lamp. The biggest building component of it is actually the
Audrey, background
The structure
architecture,
as a whole.
first year mechanical and design.
Which he said
She drew this.
seemed like still be a big football player. Okay, so you come in and you turn on the power for the microcontrollers that control the keypad and the air. And
These
then
are
you have to wait
opposites.
for it to get
We're
to
scrappy.
the temperature that we want, which is 59 degrees for the keypad and 35 degrees for the air temperature. And then you put in your prototype and you align it with the foot, and then you screw the foot to the pneumatic piston, and then you turn on the air compressor, and that compresses the sample with 50 psi, and then you just wait. We wait it until it reaches 45 degrees for all the samples, and then we turn it off, and then we save the data.
So I mentioned
Compare
by the
what
way.
is currently used in an Adidas football cleat with our prototypes, and we found that our prototypes do keep the foot cooler. It takes a lot longer to reach that target temperature of 33 degrees Celsius. So that was very promising. When we compared our test results to our transient heat model, we were surprised that the curves actually matched almost identically. We're handing off
You have an
to
undergrad?
Adidas a simulation tool
Undergrad.
that they can use to see how a prototype may perform in our test setup. And we also have provided some inspiration moving forward with the phase change materials and some ideas of how to integrate it into the shoe. Hopefully they will take the phase change material idea and implement it.
So yeah, she's in the product design, graduate, undergrad, first year grad. Chris Culture from Adidas. So what does that mean? Yes, that it was a student team that was one semester. The test rig was not part of the project. They had to figure out how to build it to then test the midsoles. Notice all of the mixing of the different materials and phase change materials. None of them had material science as their specialty. You had the computer scientists in there in the makerspace, drilling. You had a number of individuals who didn't have this expertise. And what did they send Adidas? They sent multiple prototypes of different types of mixes of phase change materials, different types of the phase change materials, and different geometries by which they had tested to then give an idea to that team where they don't need to continue to go down a path and where they could eliminate certain ideas. And then, as you heard, inspiration, potentially. And they gave them the tool. All of that was given over to the innovation team in Adidas. Rich decentralized ecosystem. What does that mean? That means we have a number of centers that are dedicated to helping faculty and students and researchers commercialize their idea. One I'm going to point out is the Deshpande Center. This is where I have published as a PI, yet I see potential for commercialization, and yet my grant has run out. How do I get it to potential commercialization? Deshpande is helping PIs do something like that. But then, if you're interested in free entrepreneurship resources, the Martin Trust Center for MIT Entrepreneurship offers a variety of those things. And we also have a number of clubs. All of our clubs at MIT are student-run. These are all student-run. And there is no red tape to start a club. You want a chocolate club? You apply and say, I want to have a chocolate club. What does your chocolate club do? We test chocolate and see what are the best chocolate. They say, okay, you start your chocolate club. We support you in doing great things. The chocolate club decides, oh, we're going to hand it off to more people. And those students say, meh, we're not as enthused about a chocolate club. So the chocolate club goes away. No harm, no foul. But they had the opportunity for exploration. A pathway to learn and grow. Yes? Are these endowed? Yeah, so for our endowment, so we have money that are dedicated, that clubs can get small bits of funding, but not a lot. They are connected to resources, but anytime they ask for funding, they have to very clearly articulate what they need it for, how they're going to spend it, and why that's going to be a positive impact for the larger student population. So they get to start the chocolate club, but if I want to have a chocolate tasting night, okay, tell me exactly what you want it for. Okay, I want chocolate powder, I want a couple of chocolates, and I want a heating element. And so what's the first thing? How are you not going to burn the building down? Okay, you figure that out, we'll give you $300, and you can do that. But if I say, because, or for fun, we say, try again. We want to understand what are you going to use the money for? And how are you going to use it to impact the broader MIT community? So, while it is decentralized, you still do have to make a case on how you're going to use it in a positive way. And this also kind of leads into this pathway to learn, experiment, and grow. And I'm going to really impact the pathway part because I work with MIT Portugal and do a workshop every year for international innovation. I would select graduate students from across technical universities will submit an application around their work. Many times it's their graduate work. What is the impact of their work? Why does it matter? Where are they within the stage? Have they understood or made any traction? It's okay if they hadn't, and what are they looking to grow out of? And the reason I mention this is one of the biggest challenges is, okay, then now what? Okay, I'm inspired, but now what? And so truly being able to help with, here are individuals who can help you, or classes or whatnot, because, for example, classes are an excellent way to learn. This is, am I in the ideation stage? Or am I trying to figure out, I've got something, I've been working on it, but now what do I do about figuring out who cares? That's primary market research. Or how do I build a team? Or what are my legal implications? But here's the other key that I will point out is that it's industry focused as well. So we have a healthcare ventures, we have an energy ventures, we have a biotech ventures. Because if I'm doing digital healthcare or I'm doing biotech, I have very, very different needs the further I get along. If I'm doing a Snapchat app or a medical device, I'm going to have very different needs as I go along. And so part of this also is understanding who do I need on my team. If I'm going through FDA regulations for a medical device, I need to make sure I know regulation. I need to know I'm talking to somebody who understands what those dynamics are. If I'm doing something, a real interesting kind of back-end development around using computer vision, and I don't have anyone who knows computer vision, what's my likelihood of success there, right? So we all have great ideas, but then this is a really excellent opportunity also for the project-based classes to test with teammates, potential teammates. Because another question is, how do I find them? And this is a way to find similar interested individuals as well as the clubs are. And then it's the space to practice, learn, and grow. Allie, for example, waving up there. Allie helped start Hacking Medicine Club. This was, how do we actually start to understand what are the real problems to solve in healthcare? Well, best we then partner with some of the hospitals and the healthcare providers to understand what those are. Also bring government and regulators and insurers into that mix so we can then understand how do we negotiate that path. That is where PillPack came from, which is what CVS ended up buying them for quite a bit of money. You can look at that acquisition if you'd like. But that said, she is now working with a nuclear fusion company. And this is just one example. This is the first in the world rapid prototyping space for nanotechnologies. It was exceptionally expensive for all of our individual researchers to be able to afford the clean rooms and the equipment it takes to truly develop nanotechnologies. And so the thought was, if we invest in this, we're actually going to be able to move forward in this domain unlike anyone else in the world. But these are shared spaces, classrooms, offices, and research facilities. Intro to chemistry is taught here. And then we also have a lot of support from our researchers and faculty to move it from lab to market. Now, I don't know if you know Bob Langer. This is Bob. Oh, you know Bob. Okay. He's fantastic. He might come here, evidently. He is too busy. Yeah, he is amazing, I will have to say. He will shame you in how fast he will reply to your emails, though, while he's sitting in a board meeting, because he is also one of the most cited engineers in history with over 450,000 citations. As you can see, granted or pending 1,400 patents. And he's helped found over 40 companies. Now, this is a number that I always have to double check on, because it was 26 and it was 32, now it's over 40, because he is just spinning these out so fast. Moderna, COVID vaccine, that was one of his companies. In our big School of Science building, the Koch building, he has an entire floor. And this is how he thinks about his students. My biggest priority are my students. It's the MIT stuff that lays the foundation for all of these companies. He doesn't have time to found and start in full-time 40 companies. He's got a research lab. But if I'm a graduate student or any student in Langer's lab, I can actually approach him, give him a case for an area of exploration, and he will give that individual funding to do further exploration. He has been noted as spending upwards of 80% of his week talking to students. This is how he sees getting what they are doing from research out of the walls of the lab into the market, which is where the impact is had. And then it's really understanding broader engagement. How do we include all of these stakeholders in the larger innovation ecosystem? This is where I mentioned like hacking medicine, right? It is, I needed my government regulators, I needed to understand from the corpus, I needed to understand from the hospitals and that risk capital being able to fund it. And one of the big challenges, though, was that MIT was seeing these really, really complex, high potential, high impact research projects dying. Because if I have a new cancer treatment, risk capital, venture capital is looking for a liquidation event, some type of money out in a 5 to 7 year horizon, and it is going to take me longer to solve cancer than that time frame, right? And so MIT put a stake in the ground saying, we are going to establish a venture capital fund for tough tech founders. These are your chemistries, these are your new semiconductors, these are your new techniques, methodologies, manufacturing opportunities, materials to change how we do energy, change how we treat cancer, change how we think about climate. If you want to see the future, look at these portfolio companies at the engine. And they're not just MIT. And finally, it's cross-disciplinary collaborations, which I had mentioned. This was just over a 2-year period of time where these students all touched FIFA's projects. Notice, they're undergraduate and they're graduate. They're in classes, they're undergraduate research projects, they're graduate research. They come from the Institute of Data Society and Systems, mechanical, the Sloan School of Management, our MBA students, from supply chain, from the Institute of Medical Engineering and Science, from math. This is where we get really creative solutions, because every department solves things a little differently. We train our kids, I can call them kids, they've allowed me to say that, even though they're adults, I know that, to think a certain way. If I'm an applied mathematician, I think differently than a chemical engineer. I think differently than a systems engineer. I think differently than a mechanical engineer. I think differently than a business person. But these are all important for us to get them out the door. And that collaboration allows for really creative outcomes. And we've seen this over and over in the last 10 years. So just to wrap, mind and hand. I learn and then I do. We have a rich decentralized ecosystem supporting the students, the researchers, the faculty, wherever they're at and whatever they need. That pathway to learn, experiment, and grow, the support to do so, to get it out of the lab, those walls, into the world, having positive impact, those broader engagements, truly understanding how do we bring together all of the stakeholders to make the impact, and then those cross-disciplinary teams and collaborations. So while it takes time, there's nothing like having a positive impact in the world and potentially changing the world. Thank you. Should I?
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Christina Chase, for the insightful presentations. So now we will open the floor for any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Christina Chase. This is your opportunity to ask any questions. Any question at all?
Please
Perhaps-
ask. I'll
yeah,
give you a
please.
sticker.
Ah, yeah.
First question gets a sticker.
Yay.
Okay, hi, Christina. I'm Mas.
Hi, Mom.
Yeah, I'm a statistician from the Faculty of Intelligent Computing. I really thank you for the talk, and it really inspired me because I have a product actually, a simple product, but yet very significant to the what we call to our primary school students. So I was having a long road actually to come to this. To this achievement. Back in 2016, my team invented a game actually. It's just a simple game.
Yes.
And it took me about almost 8 years, 9 years to come to the point where we can, commercialize our product. And then to come to that far, I think we have struggled. And then hearing what you are talking about, the whole thing about, the invention, the time, the effort, the perseverance and everything. So I have few things to ask you. Okay, one, is there any example that you have in MIT where, as you mentioned just now, looking at it, some of your materials from 30,000, you come to the only maybe one that can survive to the ends. So is there any example where there could be some products that go through the failure and then they succeed? One question. Second question. Yeah, I think we may have a different culture here because we are talking about Malaysian, and then we are struggling in getting grants, industrial collaboration and whatnot. So how do you about to convince your industrial partner, even though you have a very simple product, yet you can buy them, so that you can, they can give you, financial aids, and then we can go about to, commercialize maybe locally and internationally. That would be my second question. And the third question would be, what is your opinions? I would like to compare how the MIT achievement is being done, and then in terms of what China is been doing right now. So I may need your opinions or your perception on how they achieve and how in terms of the achievement in MIT. Is there any difference on how they can leapfrog so quick as compared to what we are doing the whole around the world? Okay, that will be the three things. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. So, excellent. I will give you a sticker. Even though 3 questions, you're going to get 1. Okay, I'm going to summarize so first, examples of those that you said fail, but I'm going to call it pivoted. Quite a few, which is, I think I know the market, and I'm not getting any traction. And what I think I'm solving for is actually not something they care enough about solving to want to pay for it. And that's not unusual. Actually figuring out your first market's really hard. And so I think one of the big things is the challenge that we see are two things. Primary market research is a necessity. I don't know always if our researchers realize that adding to a knowledge of the larger whole is the same as primary market research. So sometimes that is underdeveloped. The second is there is problem research and there's solution research. Problem research is, does anyone care? And how much do they care? And when they say they care, what are they doing today to try and solve the problem? How big of a pain point is it? Is it money? Is it time? Is it their ability to actually meet the goals that they've been put out, their personal key performance indicators? And then the solution research is, have I now solved what I think I'm solving? And many times I've seen those get mixed up because I want to go tell you how I've solved your problem. And I don't know yet if you actually care whether or not I've solved that. And I've done it 100 times. Because my baby's pretty, and you're welcome. And it's going to be the next astronaut and president. Isn't it beautiful? Haven't I solved your problem? That's called leading the witness. This is where we have to step back, even if we have done something incremental in our research, to say, who now cares? And what is the demographic of those individuals by which it's actually enough people to make this sustainable? Because that's the other challenge. I might have, this is where I have yet to see anything in our sports technology research worth commercializing, because FIFA is N of one. The NBA, N of one, right? I'm developing things on proprietary data that could help a lot of people, supposedly. But how many FIFAs can I sell to? FIFA. How many NBAs can I sell to? The NBA, right? So I want to make sure it's big. And the second piece is, I want to make sure it is a vitamin versus a painkiller. Vitamins we all know we should take. They're nice to have. How many of us regularly take vitamins to the recommended dosage every single day versus how many of us have a splitting headache and are like, just get me a pain reliever, please. I'm not really looking to figure out whether or not it's good for me. I just want to alleviate the pain in the moment. So you're really looking for who has a big enough pain and are enough of them there to solve it. And as I'm listening, I'm not selling. I'm trying to just identify, can I solve their problem? And if not, I need to look at a different place. And so that's what we talk about the pivot. You don't want to pivot so often where it's like, oh, I'll try them. Oh, they don't like it. I'll try them. They don't want it. Oh, right? You need to have enough conversations to see, am I seeing a signal through the noise? That second question then, you were speaking to, was it the resource? Okay, remind me,
I think your first answer is also the second answer for this question.
Okay, yeah, oh, yeah. So this is the other thing. How do you get the funding, right? I was told that MIT Sports Lab was impossible. Multiple times. We've tried this. We've funded it. No one will ever pay for graduate research in sports. You know what I said? That's interesting. Tell me more. Okay. Why? Why do you feel that way? Oh, okay. Interesting. I love when people tell me it's impossible. Now say it angry. Now tell me I really can't do it. But what did I do? I went and I talked to everybody I could to figure out. So first I wrote down my hypotheses. Let me tell you, I think I invalidated all of them. I was surprised at where I had conversations where I thought I would never be able to help the PGA. They don't even have, what is their product? Their product is membership. I thought I needed somebody who was doing engineering to supply chain. Who knew? There were other people. But I never went in saying, we're MIT. Actually, that was actually one of our big challenges because people would ask us one of two things. First, they didn't want to ask a question because they didn't want to ask a dumb question. So we started coming in saying, okay, thank you for your patience. We're going to ask a lot of dumb questions. You know your expertise, Adidas, FIFA, whoever. We know our capacity. We don't know if there's overlap there. But let's have the conversation and see. The second was, oh, they're MIT. We'll ask for a unicorn. We don't breed unicorns. So I can't give you a time machine yet, but that's going to take a little bit longer. So us then being able to say, okay, understanding where are our capacities and what are the quick wins, because sports works on a very quick cycle. And so we had to change. We engage with our sports organizations differently than just about anybody else does with the petroleum companies or our climate companies or our energy companies, et cetera. So, and then finally, I would say, no, I didn't list that last one, which was?
The one, your perception about China.
Oh, perception about China. I mean, China's a big country. I mean, I don't know. I can't say that I have enough thorough experience working in the midst of China and their technology to be able to say exactly why they've done that. I can speak to why MIT is able to do their work, and I'm not saying that this is a copy-paste. That's the other thing. This is inspiration, right? It is not the same in Malaysia as it is in the United States. And frankly, MIT is not the same as Stanford or Harvard, right? This is just how we've done it. China has a number of brilliant minds. So it doesn't surprise me that they've been able to do what they do. So, yeah.
Right, thank you. Any more questions? Okay. Got like 5 more minutes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Reza, Electric Faculty. I would like to know more about one of the pillars there, rich and good ecosystem in MIT. For example, let's say students come up with a good projects, design project. Who's going to pay for the patent? Either the universities. Who's the patent belong to? The students or the staff? And if staff commercialize something, how do the flexibility in terms of tax go about, right? Things like that, where I think we have yet to have that in a very good ecosystem. Thank you.
My pleasure. So first I will say we're very lucky with what we call our TLO, but it's our Technology Licensing Office. It is the best I have worked with in any higher education organization, and let me tell you why. Their incentives are not aligned to making money off the patents. Their incentive is aligned with having it used. Having it used. Now, 800 companies are working with us. If we say, hey 3M, thanks for funding all of the R&D, all of this foundational research to get to a point of patentability, and then we say, we are going to take you for every penny because we want 3M as a large company to pay through the nose. That's a saying, they pay a lot. How often will 3M come back to MIT and want to fund research? Our tech licensing office knows for us to maintain those types of relationships, we have to play well with others. And so PIs have a lot of influence on being able to say, this research has been sponsored by this company. And so if their researchers were part of the invention, they're on the invention, right? So they own it with us. But the other piece is, if it is done by graduate students, it's owned by MIT, and it's a third goes to MIT, a third goes to the lab, and a third goes to those who are on the patent. If it's undergraduate, MIT feels like it's double dipping because the undergraduates pay for their education, although 60% of our undergraduates are on financial aid, that's still seen as is payment. And so they own their own invention. Here's the other thing. If you want to go tlo.mit.edu, they will give you resources and tell you the licensing process. They'll let you know how or who to talk to. They'll give as many resources as possible. And the other is that we worked with them a number of years ago because what we were finding was if I'm a graduate student and I want to take my research out into the world, I don't have money to license it. And so they worked with us to actually give a runway to the startups for their own IP to then actually have time to commercialize it without any licensing incurment, right? And so it's truly understanding how do you get it used. We'll hold off, right? Maybe, let's go back to our 3M example. Maybe 3M wants to license it, but I, as a graduate student, would like to try. And so rather than saying, oh, sorry, we're going to get more money over here, they're saying, we're actually going to give you the opportunity, because who better? Who better than those who have put in years of research in? And so our faculty have that same type of thing, right? This goes back to Bob Langer, right? That giving that runway to be able to see if there is opportunity for that commercialization to take place. So that's kind of how IP works. The other thing is we don't patent software. We don't patent algorithms. Why? I change a line of code and it's done, right? So they're also very aware, yeah, they'll patent it if it makes sense. If it makes sense. If it doesn't, that's why you see a lot of open source at MIT around software, data, et cetera. Good questions.
All right. Okay. I have one last question for you.
Yes.
I mean, like, based on your experience in guiding hundreds of teams from idea to successful startup in MIT, what do you see as the most important first step for young engineers and students who wants to turn their ideas into impactful invention?
Excellent question. What's the most important first step? Do your research. Now, what does that mean? How long has it taken you, if you're a graduate student, to figure out what is the question I'm going to work on for the next rest of my PhD? Insert time frame here. About a year probably, right? Take the time to figure out what is the problem you should be solving in the market and for who. Who cares? When you are looking at what your thesis question is, you have not solved it yet, right? You've done your literature review. You've spoken to your PI. Maybe you've spoken to others in the field who've published. Do that when looking to solve a problem in the commercial space, because it might be a portion of what your research is. But as you go down the process, you might take a left versus a right. I'm going to do this to get my PhD and be able to defend and add new knowledge to this important space. But if I go down and take a left, this will actually make it commercializable. But if I know that early enough in the process, then I can do something as I go through that process, right? It doesn't mean I don't. And this is what I've got graduate students working with FIFA and the NBA, and we have what are we doing for the thesis? Because they still have to defend their work in front of a multi-PI thesis committee, and you don't get a pass because it's the NBA, right? But the NBA, we clearly understand what portions of that work is going to be able to influence what they need further down the line. And so the key is take the time to understand and do your research. You already know how to do it. You guys are better armed than anybody because you know how to do your work. Google it, try the apps. Everything you're trying to do, try it. Talk to people who are using it. Ask them why. Ask them what they've looked at and what they haven't used. Ask them what are they currently using. Why does it matter? What is the pain point? By the way, people love to complain. It's amazing. Go ask anybody and just say, hey, do you use Facebook? If hypothetically, right? You want to do another social app. And you're like, what do you use? Oh, I use Facebook, I use Snapchat, I don't know if Snapchat still exists. I use Instagram, TikTok, and X. Okay, great. Which one's for what? Oh, okay, interesting. How often? Oh, what do you like? What do you not like? Now imagine asking any of your colleagues. They're going to sit down and tell you every single reason they don't like a tool, a software, a process, any number of things. And that's where you start to use this 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's your ratio. Listen, don't sell. You're not selling, you're doing research. 'Cause here's the thing, there are 100 problems, and there are millions of problems in the world. You don't know what to do? Start writing down and just look and ask people. Just start talking. Because here's the other thing. The first idea is not the right idea. That's okay. Remember, get the first 100 ideas out the door fast. It's the process, because you get better at the process. Here's the second piece. There are free tools, templates, frameworks at entrepreneurship.mit.edu. Same at Tufts University, because the person who runs Tufts used to be an EIR at MIT. That's, I think, entrepreneurship.tufts.edu. There are tons of free resources. There are free prototyping resources. There are things out there to help you through this process. Use them, and you can do it. The core, take action. Don't sit in the lab. Don't not talk to people. Don't just build. If you want to just build. Just assume that you're building for yourself and your own joy. That's okay. But do your problem research.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering the questions. So with that, thank you.
Thank you all.
Please give a big round of applause.
I have a sticker for you.
All right. As we come to close of today's program, I would like to invite. Oh, give a sticker, okay?
Thank you very much.
So I got sticker as well?
You do. As an excellent moderator, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So as we come to close of today's program, I would like to invite the Dean of Faculty of Intelligent Computing, Professor Technology Dr. Azrami Abdul Hadi, to present a token of appreciations to our distinguished speaker. Please welcome Ms. Yes.
Thank you so much.
So once again, on behalf of UNIMAP and the Faculty of Intelligence Computing, we thanks Ms. Christina Chase for her inspiring talk, and all of you for being a part of this event. So with that, we would like to gather all of you in the center to take a group photo before we end our program today. Can we do that? Yes. Gather around and take a last group photo. Deh, ke tengah sikit ramai.
Move this so that somebody can.
Okay, ke tengah semua, rapat-rapat kan, rapat-rapat. Maybe yang tengah tu boleh maintain kan, yang lain tu duduk tengah berdiri, so kita ambil gambar. Yang adik-adik. Duduk tengah tu. Tengah. Siapa fotografer kita?